Hello and welcome. In this explainer, we're going to be exploring a really foundational concept from psychology. It's something that sits right at the heart of presence-driven leadership, and it's all about where we get our sense of control and how that shapes our ability to build true internal authority.
So let's start with a really fundamental question. Think about your life for a moment. Do you feel like it's primarily the result of your own actions, your choices, your will, or is it mostly shaped by forces outside of you? Things like luck, fate, or other people's decisions. Just kind of hold that question in the back of your mind as we go.
The tool we're going to use to look at this is called the Locus of Control. It was actually developed by a psychologist named Julian Rotter way back in 1966, and it's not so much a rigid box to put people in, but more like a map for understanding our own internal orientation toward the world.
And that's really the heart of it. Locus of Control is all about where we locate the control in our lives. Do we see it as being internal, something that comes from within us, or is it external, something that's, well, out there? This one little distinction can honestly shape just about everything.
Now, what's really important to get here is that this isn't about being one thing or the other. It's not a category. It's a spectrum. We all kind of slide along this spectrum depending on the situation, right? So the goal here isn't to judge ourselves, but just to get more aware, to use this as a tool to explore our own patterns with a sense of curiosity.
Okay, so let's dig into this a little more. Let's look at the two ends of this spectrum. On one side, you've got an internal orientation, and on the other, an external one. And these aren't just beliefs, They are two completely different ways of seeing and moving through life. And what's so fascinating is when you look at these belief statements, which actually come from Rotter's original work, you can just feel how different they are. The internal side says, persistence and hard work usually lead to success. The external side says, the success I have is largely a matter of chance. One says, I earn the respect I receive, while the other feels like, my life seems like a series of random events. You can really feel that shift in where the power is, can't you?
And this is where it all connects back to presence-driven leadership. See, an internal locus, that's the bedrock of what we call internal authority, that deep, grounded sense that you are the author of your life. It naturally leads to discernment and responsibility. On the flip side, an external locus often connects to reactivity, just living on autopilot, and a tendency to attribute everything to either blame or just random chance. All right, so now let's turn this around and use this framework as a kind of mirror for ourselves. And again, the goal here is not to score yourself or stick a label on. It's just to gently notice your own tendencies, without any judgment.
So here's a statement that really reflects a strong internal orientation. I usually get what I want in life. It has this built-in belief that you have agency, that you can be effective in the world.
Just take a quiet moment with that. How does that statement land for you? Does it feel true in your bones, or does it feel kinda distant or maybe even untrue? There's no right answer here. There's only your own awareness. Okay, let's try another one. It is difficult to know who my real friends are. Now, this one can point toward a more external orientation. It kind of suggests that relationships are these confusing things that happen to you rather than something you actively participate in building and discerning. And again, just notice your gut response. Does that idea feel familiar? Does it create any tension in you? Your reaction, whatever it is just data. It's information that might reveal where you tend to place your sense of control when it comes to your relationships. Just getting this insight, seeing these patterns in yourself, that is the huge first step. The next step is all about alignment. It's about consciously choosing to cultivate our own internal authority and shifting from a place of reactivity toward true responsibility. So let's look at a simple practice for how we can start to do that. And we can do this with a really simple, repeatable micro-practice. It's just 3 steps. First, we observe our own language. Second, we focus on what we can actually influence. And third, we practice taking small, responsible actions. So here's how it works. First, you just start by observing your own words. Just notice when you say things like, I got lucky, versus, I made a good choice. Next, you practice discernment. In this situation, what is actually within my control and what isn't? And finally, based on that new clarity, you just take one small, deliberate step. An action that comes from your own internal authority, not from habit or autopilot. And that really leaves us with a final thought to carry with you. It's not some huge, overwhelming task. It's something simple but incredibly powerful. Just looking at your day, at your work, at your relationships, what is one small thing right now that you can take full and complete responsibility for? Because that is where internal authority truly begins.